Hello, I'm Dr. Dawn Scantlebury, and here with me is Brian Clark, who is a friend of mine as well as um, a fellow Tai Chi person, Tai Chi practitioner. And Brian has a story to share with us all. Um, I'm going to introduce you as a patient or a person living with heart disease. And I'm going to ask you to talk a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, I was born and grew up in Barbados. I didn't really have a family history of heart disease, except my uncle on my mother's side did have some heart problems, high blood pressure problems. My mother had high cholesterol. I remember as a young teenager her saying she had high cholesterol and had to watch her diet. But being typical teenagers, you don't worry about things like that, So I just was fairly active. I didn't engage in organized sports, but I did a lot of swimming and cycling, things like that. And then I went off to school in the U.S. For a while for my university education. Studied aircraft maintenance engineering up there, and then after I completed my education in the States, came back to Barbados. This time I was in my early 20s. Came back and worked there for a while at the airport, and then I went off to Canada, where my mother's family was from, and lived in Alberta, out west in Western Canada. And I was working in various fields out there. I was working for a while in aircraft maintenance, but then I got attracted to working up north in the Arctic, which was in the very high Arctic, working for land surveyors, doing oil field exploration, not laying out well sites for new oil wells and for gas wells and pipelines, these types of things, which was quite attractive at the time because you made a lot of money. You got sort of an isolation pay bonus for being up there, but you were flown out regularly down south to civilization. But the food up there in the camps was not heart healthy by any means. And they found one good way to keep the people up there, as well as paying them well, as giving them food, good, So, but it was a lot of steak and potatoes, and they always had pies and buns and cinnamon buns, there for you whenever you wanted. You just go help yourself.
Right.
But at the time I was quite active because of the work. I was out, walking around in the snow and these types of things and burning up a lot of energy. So it really didn't show on my waistline. But again, when looking back on it now, there was some vegetables, but they weren't, usually that fresh all the time. And there was a lot of, like I say, steak and potato type meals and things like that. Then I finally gave that up after I got a job offer to work down south. And by this time now, I was in my early 40s, and I first got a chest pain when I was out walking one afternoon as a form of exercise. I was walking through some of the local parks out west. I said, oh, whoa, this isn't good. I know chest pain, that's a sign you could have problems with your heart.
Right.
So I went to see my doctor. He sent me to the cardiologist. He sent me for a stress test at the hospital, where you get in the exercise machine, and they just make sure that the ECG readings are all okay. They don't see any abnormality in the ECG. There was no thallium scan or anything other than just a stress test, just looking at your heart rate, monitoring your heart with the ECG. And the doctor said, well, you did fine, there's no problems there. You're way too young really to be having heart disease at this stage of your life, so don't, just monitor it, let us know if anything develops.
And you were in your 40s?
Yeah, I was about 45.
Okay.
And not long after that, I moved to Canada. Moved to Toronto, to live in Toronto, because, again, for work-related reasons. And one thing about Toronto is it's a very big city, but it has a lot of nice interconnected parks where you can ride your bike, from one side of the city to the other, not having to go out much on the roads and streets, but ride through parks. I really got into cycling in a big way. And it was cycling everywhere. I'd cycle to work from home. This was in the summer, and when there wasn't snow on the ground. But again, I started noticing, well, I'm getting chest pains when I
Right.
ride my bike too hard, too fast or go uphill. So I went back to not my doctor at the time. He sent me for another stress test. This time they did a thallium scan with me, where they give you the stress test and they inject radioactive dye around the heart. It shows up where the blood flow
It's reduced.
is
Yeah.
reduced or not what it should be. And the diagnosis came back, yes, you have heart disease and you'll have to go on medication. So they started me on, heart medications and encouraged me to keep on exercising, but just to manage it and with the medication and not to overexert myself. And so this was in about the early 2000s now. So that went on for a while, and then I got working in a computer network environment where I was managing a computer network center, and it was very stressful because it was one of those situations where everything had to be up and running, and if it wasn't, there were people calling, when is it going to be up, how long is it going to take to fix, why did it go down, and your boss is calling, and these types of things, and you get calls like at 3 o'clock in the morning, and these types of things,
Yeah.
So it was very stressful. I noticed that with the stress, it seemed I was getting angina pains again.
Were you exercising as much then, or did the stress stop you from exercising?
I would say I wasn't exercising as much as I would have liked. I actually did ride my bike quite a bit still.
To work.
To work, yeah.
Okay.
But other than that, really, and in the winter I would go skiing, which is it's downhill, but and you
It's good
have to go
exercise.
back up, but you do get some workout there. So I saw the cardiologist, and he said when I told him that during the work environment I felt I was getting some heart chest pains and things, and he said, well, this time we'll give you an angiogram and see what exactly the picture is. So they performed the angiogram on me in Toronto, and the result came back that yes, there were some blockages in my arteries. They weren't critical, but there was also an aortic aneurysm. The aortic artery had blown up and was enlarged and would have to be monitored because at some point it would need to be fixed or it would blow completely, and that was fatal.
So jump forward. When did you eventually get that fixed?
That was in about 2004.
And it was fixed because of they had gone to the particular size?
Yeah. What happened was they said, the aortic aneurysm is not critical right now. It's enlarged and it will probably get bigger. So we'll just monitor it, and if your angina isn't too bad, you can keep on your medications and we'll just handle it that way. And this was in like early 2004. But I found that the angina, I had to go through a procedure to monitor the size of the ballooning of the artery in the aorta.
Right.
And I found out that I had to do it I can't remember exactly the time, every 3 months, every 6 months, something like that. And I found it was a horrible procedure because I had to stick a tube down your throat, and it was very uncomfortable and not very pleasant
A
at all.
transesophageal echo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and at the same time, I still noticed the heart chest pains are coming and going, not severely, but enough to be a bit worrying. So I went back to the cardiologist and I said, look, I don't like this procedure I have to go through every 6 months. It's very uncomfortable. I'm not looking forward to having to do it for the next 5 or 10 years while I wait for this thing to get where it needs to be fixed. And plus I'm still having these chest pains every once in a while. So at that point, he said, okay, let's send you to the surgeon and you'll see what he says. The surgeon said, yes, I can fix you up. He said, if I probably along with the aortic aneurysm, probably your aortic valve will need replacing as well because there's frequently a relationship when you have this aortic aneurysms. You'll find the aortic valve is starting to malfunction or deteriorating at some point. So he says, oh, when I do the operation, if the aortic valve is okay, I'll leave it. If not, I'll give you a new artificial aorta. So that's what happened. I got the bypasses, 2 bypasses, and I got the aneurysm fixed, and I got the an aortic valve replacement.
Right.
And that was in 2004.
2004.
Yeah.
So since then, you've had some, some issues which have been managed mostly with medicine,
Yes.
but also with your lifestyle. What did you change in your life around that period of time, and I guess moving back to Barbados to manage your issues, your health issues?
Well, I paid much more attention to my diet. Unfortunately, I still had a weakness for sweet things, like
Right.
especially Coke and those types of drinks. But I did cut back on the try to cut back on the amount of starch, eat more vegetables, make those types of adjustments. And I had learned Tai Chi when I was before I had the operation. I had started doing Tai Chi exercises in Canada.
Right.
And I found them very stimulating and relaxing in a way. I really enjoyed the slow movement, and I found that I could still get a work up a sweat,
Right.
depending, because you can change the amount of effort depending if you go for low stances or high stances. And so you could, still work up a sweat, and still it wouldn't be called a cardiovascular workout, but I felt I was exercising, and I was, keeping my muscles toned, and I was burning up some energy. Yeah. So that was the big changes I made there. I guess. Yeah.
You need some more. And you also did cardiac rehabilitation as well, didn't you?
Yeah, for a while after I came back to Barbados, I was going to the cardiac center and using the exercise equipment there. But then I got some more. I came back in 2006 to live in Barbados again. And around 2010, I was going, and then I noticed I was getting chest pains more noticeably again upon exercise. And so my cardiologist at the time suggested I go back up to Canada. And I kept in contact with my Canadian cardiologist while I was down here. And so he arranged for me to have another angiogram. Okay. And then they found that there really wasn't, again, the picture showed there wasn't really a really significant blockage that needed an emergency operation. And he suggested, well, just keep on with the medications, and they made some adjustments, a bit more of this and a little less of that one, and these types of issues. So after that, I was able to more manage the situation. And I kept up with the Tai Chi exercises because they found that they really were I should say the easiest, but they were less stressful, and as I say, I was still felt like I was exercising. I was keeping my energy up, and I was feeling mentally as well, because there's some meditation attached to Tai Chi. It's sometimes called moving meditation. But so as well as learning the Tai Chi movements from the Tai Chi forms, and doing the meditations that are associated with Tai Chi and the Chinese part practice of Qigong, or medical Chinese medicine approach of Qigong, which is similar to Tai Chi. Tai Chi, usually you do connected forms where you go through a series of like 40 movements, and you're moving across a stage, so to speak. Qigong is usually you're more stationary, and you're moving your arms, and you're squatting, or whatever. So that's a big major difference. But either they work together, they're similar in concept of the idea of the Chinese medicine idea of having your qi, or your internal energy, flowing freely through your body by going through these different movements.
So you've been living with heart disease for well over 20 years.
Oh yeah.
You had surgery in 2004, and you've had issues, but here you are still exercising, still doing Tai Chi, still walking
Yeah.
your dogs up a hill.
Yeah, yeah.
And I dare say, and I will, from my viewpoint as a cardiologist, I think a lot of that has had to do with all the physical activity
Yeah.
you continue to do. So World Heart Day is on the 29th of September, and the theme is use heart to connect. And I like how you said there are all these connected movements. And you know, you're connected, your mind is connected to your body. What does the theme mean to you?
Well, heart is the center of the emotion, really, or it's thought to be the center of our emotions, you know. And so the idea that if you want to connect, I guess you want to establish a relationship, and there's some emotional component of that with other people, with your fellow Tai Chi practitioners, or with your doctor, or with your bank manager.
Yes.
So yeah, so you know, in a way, then your heart is going to be involved in making that connection. So I think having your heart operating as efficiently as possible is all part of building relationships and engaging in day-to-day interaction with different people. Some people you might know very well, some people you just meet occasionally or whatever.
If you have, I guess, one word to say, one sentence to say to the people of Barbados about your heart or using heart to connect, about exercise, what would you say?
I would say it's essential, and it's hard to do sometimes if you're, especially if you're working in Bridgetown and you're living, you know, up in St. Thomas or wherever, you're driving through the commute and getting back home, and then you're tired and you just want to eat and watch TV for an hour and go to bed again. But yeah, it's essential to make some time for exercise. And one thing about Tai Chi is some forms of exercise appeal to people more than others. And so find the form of exercise that appeals to you. If it's swimming, you know, make a time to go swimming. Or if it's tennis, you know, find a partner and go play tennis, join the club.
Yeah.
If it's Tai Chi, by all means, the Wushu Tai Chi Federation in Barbados, you know, meets every Saturday morning, and everyone's welcome to attend for a visit and see what it's like and learn some of the movements. And, yeah, so just don't neglect it, because it's just going to shorten your life for sure.
Yeah, it's fun. All right. Thanks, Brian.
You're welcome.
All
Thank
right.
you.